Hey, welcome to the Black Knight Nation podcast. Your host, Sal Internado here. The Black Knight Nation podcast is brought to you by Higher Echelon, a company run by Joe Ross, who's a former Army fullback, former Army assistant coach, former Army officer, a guest on the Black Knight Nation podcast. Check out our YouTube channel. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's where you can get the latest in our guests. We had a bunch of people on lately, more Army coaches with Joe Abarisi, Michelle Tamulo, the Army women's lacrosse coach, was also on there. Ray Stith, former Army cornerback, was recently on the podcast. So we appreciate everybody subscribing, liking. Check out Black Knight Nation's website. Just wrote a story updating who in the 2023 class is going direct, who's going to Army prep. And, of course, we have the latest on Andre Carter signing as a free agent with the Vikings. And that's what we're going to talk about here today with Steve Anderson and Justin Schaff. Guys, really appreciate you coming on tonight. Steve, the day ones are back, so let's talk some Army football.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's always the beginning of football season when you have the draft. So, but yeah, Justin, always good seeing you, brother. Thanks for joining us tonight. Yeah, a little surprising for the draft. I think everybody was kind of shocked. I know there were some things around Carter with his injuries, and obviously you hate to bring politics into things, but obviously politics is what drove a lot of this stuff. So,
yeah.
But really glad to see. I mean, it must have been 2 hours after the draft, maybe
a little less.
Yeah, a little less than 2 hours. I got the alert that he had signed with the Vikings. So, in my heart of hearts, I want to believe Andre Carter was not sitting there waiting for his name to be called. I hope he didn't have to go through that. Kind of like old Levis from Kentucky. But yeah, you just kind of hope that young man kind of had some expectation management from some of the teams. And obviously the Vikings were talking to him, and but the guy's going to get a shot. And boy, does he have the frame for the NFL. And let's just, I'm rooting for the guy.
Yeah, we have Justin Schaff here. Justin was a former scout for the Falcons to provide kind of the NFL perspective here. And Justin, as a part of the Army Football Brotherhood too, maybe following this yesterday and maybe not seeing his name come up as far as being picked. Did you have any thoughts yesterday about any feelings or thoughts about that?
Yeah, definitely. Again, thanks guys for having me on. I'm really honored to be here and kind of riff with you. And yeah, definitely was watching intently there, especially day 3, knowing that, hadn't come off there days 1 and 2, this was going to be his time. And, there's just such scrutiny when you go through the process. Every single one of these guys who have gone through can attest to it. Caleb, Elijah, I know I'm forgetting others, right? But, when you go through the process, it's very, very detailed, very in-depth. And the risk tolerance in utter candor is just minimal, and when there is, and Andre knows this, and it's not a secret in this brotherhood, kind of, with some of the back stuff, like it's going to make teams like, man, I don't know what risk we can assume there. But back to Steve's point, aside from the medical and what have you, to get signed as quickly as he did should be hopefully the confirmation for him that there are teams that believe in him. And, he's going to an incredible scheme with a fantastic coach, and Coach Flores. He'll fit really nicely into what he likes to do with those edge rushers. Minnesota as well, great culture. Coach O'Connell is building something really special there. Our very own Coach Kotwika can speak to that from having coached with him before, not only in Minnesota but in other places. There's if I had a chance to be in Andre Carter's ear right now, I'd tell the young man the work starts now, and you have an incredible opportunity to do something really special, and just prove it like you already have, throughout your entire journey.
Yeah, good advice. I was thinking about this today. Yeah, I had a long time to think about. Steve, we talked about it a little bit. Like, so I'm at home sitting on the couch watching a draft most of the day. It's raining up here in the Northeast, all day long, and I just, you know, my wife and daughter are watching it too, and we're just waiting for Andre's name to come in. And I had a chance to talk to him briefly on the phone on Friday. That was before the second round. Um, and he said he had a lot of family over, nieces, nephews, cousins, just waiting for that moment. And like you said, I don't know if like it's got to be. I was getting excited, like trying to pick out. Okay, the Giants have brought him in. The Giants have a lot of interest in him. Okay, the Broncos with Kotwika. The Steelers with Mike Sullivan, ex-Army. I'm seeing these guys go back. My Cardinals, I'm like, oops, they took an edge rusher in the second round. They're probably not going to take another one in the draft. So trying to see where he might possibly land, and then before you know it, the draft's over. So I don't know how. Like, man, I was like all getting up anxious. I just I don't know if we'll ever know, but wondering what it was like for him. I felt really bad. I know it was a tough day in Texas with Andre Carter. And
I think and I don't know. Obviously, you could have more precise goals than other, but I think as a kid, your goal is to play in the NFL. I know we hear stories about I want to get drafted into the NFL, or I will. Some guy. We've heard some players say I want to be the number one draft pick in the NFL that have accomplished that. And I kind of, as an external big brother, the guy is going to get to live his dream and get a chance to play in the NFL. And I think at the end of the day, other than maybe pride, he's going to get what at the end state, right? And get a chance to show what he can do. And, there's always a risk taking an academy guy, right? There's a risk where policy can change. And even though the policy right now states that he's good to go, we are one ally doing the wrong thing to Russia or China or whatever, where they're like, hey, we need everybody we can get. And Andre Carter may not be playing next year. So there's always a risk there when you take an academy guy. And I'm sure there's all types of waivers and stuff. And, the best thing that I think is at the end of the day, Army football player is going to be entering the NFL again, another season where we're going to put somebody in the league right out of the academy. And obviously that'll dwindle with the change in policy, but it's good for recruiting. It's good for the military. It's good for the NFL. Everybody wins, and just really excited to watch Andre. Honestly, what I'm really excited about is seeing Army football player 6'7", 260 Andre Carter, and then seeing Minnesota Viking 6'7", 260 Andre Carter, if you know what I mean. Like, there's gonna be some growth there as he continues to mature, and just really excited. I mean, it's always exciting when a guy, not only a team that you follow, but a guy you hope is a great young man. So,
and if I could, I'm just going to circle back just to say, Steve, spot on, nailed it with the risk. That's just something that teams are going to be going through in their process, thinking through, like, the investment that you're making there. You have to take that into account in the decision-making process. And Sal, circling back to something you said, it just hit me like a ton of bricks with, the realistic agony that was taking place there throughout all 3 days, waiting for that call. But to try and, use some of our Center for Enhanced Performance thought and inversing the approach here, like, the young man got to choose what team he wanted to play for. Yeah. Because how this process works is once that Mr. Irrelevant pick is in and the draft has concluded, it is everyone blowing up your phone. So instead of getting one call, he got 32 calls. And, I think just trying to find solace again, figuring out any way to reach Andre here, like, there were 32 teams that when the draft closed wanted your services, and you got to pick the one that, is going to be a good home for you. And you're going to do great things. And Steve nailed it as well. It's a phenomenal example of the talent pool that the academy is churning out. And, even with this change in policy, there are still going to be very talented football players that don the black and gold that are going to be, have the abilities to take their talents and play on Sunday. So,
yeah, I always, I ask my buddies that are around Army football quite a bit, like, hey man, does not having NIL deals hurt us recruiting? Does not, now that the policy changes, guys not being able to go straight to the league, is that hurting our recruiting? And honestly, the feedback I get is like they might lose one or two guys on their board from that. It's not a huge hit because how they kind of combat the NIL thing is you got a guaranteed job when you graduate, making pretty good money, not just take-home money, but benefits and all that stuff. So, yeah, you might lose out on the NIL deals. The NIL, all you hear is the NIL deals that are huge. You don't hear about this, your average run-of-the-muck guy getting the NIL deal. So, one or two guys to the NIL, probably one or two guys to maybe this policy change. But at the end of the day, like Justin mentioned, you go back to the Center for Enhanced Performance, right? Yeah, and you just work through it that way. So it's it'll be interesting to see. I mean, Sal, you may know, and Justin, you may know too. I mean, how many other academy football players were on any kind of board this year? Was there anybody from Air Force, Navy, Coastal, or any other academies? Those are the main three.
Yeah, the main ones. Yes. And,
I'm not sure, and there could have been a gentleman's agreement, like, hey, and I don't know, Justin might know more than us how much teams talk to other teams about, not necessarily draft strategy, but like this is a huge thing. Like, are we going to continue to draft academy guys when there's so much risk involved? I mean, when you talk about risk, right, Justin? The NFL not for long. I mean, that's a real playoff of the National Football League. It's not for long. I remember that was one of the first texts you sent me after. I was like, hey man, how's it going? You're like, well, the NFL is not for long.
It's definitely what it is. And honest to goodness, I think with the policy change, you're just going to see evaluation go back to how it was when, Ollie, Josh, and everybody was playing, Colin, that era of talent. It's going to be the understanding of, okay, yeah, he is going to be pushed 2 years to the right in a draft class, and you're just going to wait to show up to Norman, Oklahoma, and see Popeye the Sailor with massive biceps and Colin Mooney there, just banging them out. Like that's what you're going to be, keeping your database current, and it's a shame, especially when there's an opportunity for these guys to be able to really fine tune their development when they're still playing the game. I'm sure Colin, Josh, Ollie, like Steve, even you can attest to it, having made a run at it. Like not being out there on the grass, actually, even if it's 7-on-7, like to not have that repetition, you lose. It becomes perishable, right? So.
You also, it continues to evolve, now that we've got the ACFT versus APFT, but PT wasn't exactly, equivalent to football drills. You could do that in some aspects, but you lose kind of that step. I know I never got my first step back after Ranger school. I just never did. I trained for 6 months, never could get it. And I'll never forget me and Coach Coe could talk. And I was, he was with the Redskins at the time. And I was like, hey, do you think there's a chance? And he's like, there's certain, the way Coach K talks, but basically he was like, you can't deviate from like the analytics too far, Steve. Okay. And it's just like, yeah, you're right. But anyway, back to this whole thing, very, 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 glad to see Andre. Great opportunity, like Justin said. I mean, I think he's got a great opportunity to go in there, make an impact, and make things happen. So I do. It is going to be interesting to see, how this all works out, because he's still got to graduate. And it's so funny. I always joke about this, because it's like almost in every military school you can graduate early if you got something else to do. Like I graduated early from the captain's career course because they wanted to send me to a different assignment. It's like, what's he got to do? You want to let him take his T's next week? Let him go. Give him the 46-month experience. All right, May's not that important.
Just a couple things. If you're watching right now and you have any comments, please send them in to us. Want to say something on the policy change, right? I guess about a month ago, I had former Secretary of the Army, Ryan McCarthy, on this podcast. And he said that basically every year, this is going to be in the news every year, that they're going to go over, there's a committee that goes over, I guess, what the Army's agenda is, or what policies and that kind of stuff, and what they want to do. Now is kind of their planning period from like March to May. In the summer, they'll talk about it more. So he was under the impression that the Congress people, two that he talked to, maybe three, want to keep it. We're all for keeping it the way it is. So we'll have to see. Now that could change. That could have changed yesterday. That could have changed a week ago. That could have changed. That might change over the summer. But we just don't. I guess the thing is, Justin, we just really don't know what it's going to be. It's not specifically set in stone that it's going to go back to 2019 yet. But by December, you kind of know. This came up before the Army-Navy game, right? The news came out that all of a sudden, Andre Carter may not be able to go directly to the NFL or Navy or Air Force guys. Brad Roberts, Air Force's fullback. Yesterday, it was Adam Schefter, one of the main draft guys, was saying, hey, he just got permission yesterday to pursue an NFL team from the Air Force. It's all, Steve, it's all chain of command stuff, right? Justin's all chain of command stuff sometimes then. And so he is getting a tryout. Brad Roberts, the Air Force fullback, is getting a rookie invite to the Commanders rookie camp. So he'll get a shot. And so it's not set in stone yet about the going back to 2019. And but after yesterday, you think it almost is, because I mean, God, he should have got. To me, there's no way you go from a preseason first round mock draft pick to not being picked. I don't really care what your medical is. He has the ability. To me, he has the ability, right? To me, it's something bigger than that for him to completely drop off and not be drafted. It has to be,
It just goes back to what Justin says. I mean, it's and Justin can talk about this, and we've talked about it. This is not just the game of football, okay? This is a $1 trillion business. And every decision they make is either going to be your job or, you listen to the wrong guy and you're not a well-established person within even if you are well-established and somebody thinks you're not the right fit based off of something, like, bruh, it's like, I ain't got time. Like, I'll pay you a salary. You know how many people in the NFL are not even in the NFL getting paid by the NFL because they get fired? I mean, I think the Browns are still paying like 7 coaches. I don't even know at this point. But like, anyway, back to your point about the pot. Yes, that's the other great thing about the Army, right? It just requires the right signature. That's it. Anything you want to do, at least in my experience, anything you want to do in the military just requires the right signature from the right person.
Yeah.
Right? Anything. Right? You want to get out of the Army tomorrow? Okay. I'll just go get just have to go find the right person to sign and you're out of the Army. It'll happen. And I'm not, if guys that want to get the shots, but we're talking about, here's my thing is we're talking about what? We're talking about what? Maybe 3 people out of every sport, 6 people total out of every academy, out of every sport. They're going to get a chance to go pro that have that ability. And that's probably the most frustrating thing. It's not like you're not taking half of West Point cadets and they're going pro, right? Like we're not losing all of our lacrosse, maybe lacrosse. Our lacrosse team's pretty good.
Yeah, they're decent. Yeah.
But anyway.
Look, I had a question for Justin real quick. From a team's perspective, how big of a difference is it if you draft somebody in the 7th round compared to signing him as an undrafted free agent? I know there's some guaranteed money there, but is it that big of a deal where a team could extend an olive branch out to Andre Carter just for him to have that moment and be an NFL draft pick yesterday in the 7th round? That 7th round pick was so valuable to them that they had to spend it on a guy that, with all due respect, Steve, to me, Andre Carter, watching tape and seeing some of the tape of these guys, just real briefly, Justin, not professionally at all, not a professional scout, but he's better than most of these guys that got drafted in the 6th or 7th round, in my opinion. I don't think it's biased. Somebody said I was drinking the Kool-Aid yesterday. When I said, how could Stetson Bennett get drafted before Andre Carter? As far as talent-wise, not as far as Bennett's the winner.
That's a little Kool-Aid, Sal. That's a little Kool-Aid.
You think that's Kool-Aid? But as far as projecting into the NFL, Stetson Bennett's more of an NFL prospect than Andre Carter?
Sal, he won 2 national championships back to back.
I'm aware.
So he even, but I get what you're saying. Yeah, Sal, I absolutely get where you're coming from because the kids got measurables and it was consensus across the board. That 21 tape was just off the charts. It was him and Will Anderson. That was what was discussions there heading into the 2022 season, and this is just the nature of the NFL. Everything gets put more and more and more under a microscope. It's just like the bigger the spotlight, the bigger the lens capture, the tighter it gets, and the more you start to nitpick because those top picks are so precious and are so heavily scrutinized. All of a sudden, like everything starts not so much coming out of the woodwork, but it begins to add up. And what I think we all are in consensus on this. What really breaks your heart for Andre is the uncertainty of our Department of Defense on what his services are going to be to the team, right? Because at the end of the day, you have to have that certainty that the individual you've selected, that you've brought into your team, is going to be able to show up on Sunday. If you're healthy, if you're not arrested and off the field, or if you're not having to be pulled to go into service for the United States Army. Like there has to be that certainty that this individual is going to show up for you on Sunday.
And I think it's just like, I think there's just, Justin said it, risk, right? There's less risk taking a guy that has no service, commitment or whatever. And, because like say a team takes a draft pick, right? Uses a draft pick on him. And then the Army comes out or the military comes out and says, hey, sorry, we're going to change this for real this time. And he's going to be heading to Bullock here in 2 weeks, right? I mean, it happened to Caleb. Like it wasn't that long ago that Caleb was drafted in the 7th round by the Detroit Lions.
15 years.
Was signing his contract that day where he got a phone call saying, hey, you got to go to Bullock. It wasn't that long ago.
And see, I'm so glad you brought it up. I was trying to tiptoe around it, but that stays in the back of NFL decision makers' head.
This long?
Oh, absolutely, because there's still guys that are in front offices that were there for that were on Matt Millen's staff that would have made that selection, give the feel-good story. Oh my gosh, there he is. He's right up the street from Radio City Music Hall. This is going to be incredible. And then he's wasted a pick. And wasting picks are the end all be all for roster construction.
I was gonna say there's a little bit of ironing here in the NFL in the draft yesterday, right? So in the 6th round, Titus Leo of Wagner, an edge rusher, got drafted, I believe, by the Colts. And Titus Leo was at the Army Pro Day. That he attended Army Pro Day at West Point, and there were 27 teams up there to see who? Andre Carter, right? For the most part, to see Andre Carter. So Titus Leo got a look from 27 teams, and apparently he did what I think he's the Northeast Conference Defensive Player of the Year for Wagner. But I don't know if he sent Andre a thank you text after he got drafted yesterday. But I mean, I don't know if that happens if all those scouts aren't there watching Carter and the other Army players that were at the combine. I thought that was a little irony from yesterday. I don't know. I just somebody from the Army Pro Day got drafted. So
yeah. I go back to and just reiterate it again. The best ability is availability. I was told that since I was 11 years old. And when your availability starts to become in judgment, right? I mean, he missed games this year. Uncertainty of the policy. It's just like, let's just give him a call after the draft. Let's not waste a draft pick. Let's just give him a call afterwards. See if he's, if he's okay with playing for us. If he's not a draft pick, which, most guys would say yes, it's a no-brainer. So, look, we're all beating a dead horse here, right? It's just. We all wanted to see him get drafted because he deserved to get drafted for, the way he's played in 2021 and last year. But as Justin has, this is how quick it can happen. Preseason, and you can have, a couple nagging injuries and some policy change, and you can drop off. But he's living his dream. I hope that's that he feels, and I hope more than anything now he starts to feel that chip even more.
Yeah, he told me he would. He would.
I hope he feels that even more now, and he's like, all right, I got 31 other teams. Whatever he's got to shape it, right? Yeah. But man, oh man, what a powerful tool! What a powerful fuel. For him. Sal, I did I also read a couple things about a couple articles on Broughton and possibly some teams were interested in him. Did you hear anything about that or
nothing yet? But I hope so. I hope that he can get a rookie mini camp invite at the least. I mean, he's an Atlanta kid, right? Maybe the Falcons would bring him in. I know that sometimes the rookie camp invites they may not happen right after the draft because some of them happen the weekend after or maybe the weekend after that. So who knows? I mean, there's still going to be hope for him.
Yeah, all team dependent, as if anything. What's the old Army METC dependent? So right, So to that end, in all honesty, though, Sal, I'd say most teams have got their rookie minicamp set up. It's just going to be a matter of what's going to be trickled down to us, the lay people, on who's all going to be in attendance for that 3-day minicamp.
Man, teams are missing out. I'm telling you, just to get them in the camp and just see it, give them a shot, give Marquell Broughton a shot, and it's more than just on the field. We talked about this on the podcast at length. He brings a lot. He brings a lot of intangibles to the field. And I think that he would be great in an NFL. I guess even in an NFL rookie minicamp, he would make a difference as a leader in that. Want to say something else real quick. This Andre Carter thing. One more thing, guys. He was trending number 5 on Twitter yesterday. An Army football player was trending number 5 after the NFL draft on Twitter. A lot of people were talking about it. A lot of people were wondering why he hadn't gone yet. A lot of fans wanted Andre Carter to be signed by their team as a free agent, so his name was out there. He was, he was on, I think the Today Show did a feature on him. Outside the Lines did a feature on him. Good Morning Football highlighted him on the NFL Network. So his story was definitely out there. And remember, he's a humble guy. And Steve, you say about more fire being lit under Carter. He's a very humble person. To hear him tell me that in a 4-minute interview on Friday saying, I've always had to prove people wrong. I'm going to prove if I have to go in there and do it again, fine. He's a guy who had no offers out of high school. zero. Had to go to prep school at Cheshire Academy, and go the prep school route. And then Army gave him a chance. He was a tight end in high school. Army wanted him to play linebacker, and he credited the coaches for kind of giving him this opportunity with the position change. So always a hard worker, always a guy that was in the film room. So that's what Justin, that's kind of the NFL teams are looking for, that type of guy, I guess.
To me, it just keeps proving more, divinity, serendipity, that he's ended up in a place like Minnesota with Coach Flores. Coach Flores will be someone that'll really gravitate towards that, and their staff will really be attracted to somebody like Andre, who has that mentality, has that makeup. And, coaches love to coach. It's pretty universal. Certainly most of them, that's for sure. Like, working with individuals that want to get better and that want to really improve their craft. And, Andre is going to have every opportunity to succeed. I'm really happy for him where he's going. Fun little fact too, I'll be interested to hear any of his sound bites on facility comparisons between Kimsey and the Minnesota Vikings new training facility. Like, it's jaw dropping. Like, it is absolutely, it's breathtaking up there. I know it'll be cold in the winters, but indoor that facility, he'll be loving life every day, doing football 24/7. So he's if there's one thing I can assure, he's going to a good place. He's going to a place where he fits, and he's entering into a culture that he'll have every opportunity to showcase the type of player that he can be.
Yeah, nice. Some other draft news involving a former Army football player. Steve, we talked about this. We texted back and forth today about Merkinson Pierre, right? Your former teammate. He's now a sports agent. And Merkinson Pierre had his first client drafted this year. It was Trey Hawkins of Old Dominion, a cornerback drafted in the 6th round by the Giants. So there, we'll get those Army football connections in there. And congratulations to Merkinson. We'll hopefully have him on soon to talk about that. That's a great job by him, and it just must have been a great feeling too.
Yeah, no, Muck and me were texting earlier this week. I saw a picture of him and a couple of the guys in Kansas City, linking up, and their families. It's funny when you when you look back at like pictures when we were younger, how we would go out, and now we got like I got 4 kids now. I got the Ann clan, baby. That's what I call it, the Ann clan. So it was all. I just wanted to tell. I just reached out and said, hey man, it's awesome that. Those are some of my favorite link ups with the Army football hood and the families meeting each other and the kids interacting. And he was busy tonight. I was trying to get him on tonight, but he's free this week, so we'll talk to him about it. But I congratulate him. I saw the same thing, Sal. As soon as I saw he got a player drafted, I reached out to him and just was like, hey man, like, love watching you from afar. Like, it's just, all these guys, man, it's so cool. I'm still doing the military thing, right? So I'm still on the path. So it's cool to see all my buddies who have created businesses or running businesses or taking that leap, because it still scares the crap out of me. Like, if it's not like physical fitness, football, or like, impacting young kids, like, mentoring young kids, like all that other stuff is like, what goes on out there? So
it's inspiring. It's inspiring, yeah.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
Could you have seen him as a sports agent when he was at West Point, or no? Did you see this coming or no?
I mean, you could kind of see anybody. I knew Schaff, I knew Schaff was going to follow that. I knew that. I mean, me and him had lockers next to each other. I knew Schaff was going to be on the, that part of the house for an NFL team, before anything else. Like, that was a fact. But yeah, it's never really surprising, because guys, it's a great thing to be a part of. Football is, most of us will attest, that football is who, that made, 70, 80% of us the way we are. But yeah, it's really cool seeing Muck get his first signee, and just happy for the man.
I think it shows too, like the life after West Point too. Like, yeah, West Point, you talk about the career after you graduate in the Army, and there's a lot of successful, like you said, Steve. There's a lot of guys that start their own businesses, and you look at guys who are CEOs of like really major companies and own professional sports teams that are West Point graduates, and there's all different avenues after your military commitment's over. And there's another one. Add a sports agent to the list, you know. So I mean, incredible.
Yeah, I know. I joked with him actually. I was like, you couldn't get Andre signed, man? What's up with that?
Yeah, Carter is not his client, I'm guessing, right?
No, he's not. But like I bought a house from an Army football player. You know what I mean? So like, anyway, it was just a joke.
Yeah, I mean, just following the draft yesterday, I live in a Giants house. I'm a Cardinals fan, live in a Giants house with my daughter and my wife, and every pick comes up. And little did I know Trey Hawkins had that Army football connection until today. So you just never know. Before we get off, maybe just some thoughts about the draft. Like, I'm not saying recap round 1 through 7 here, but Steve, you had a couple. I think you had a couple guys from your hometown go in the NFL draft, so that must have been pretty cool. Just maybe go around between you guys and just your overall thoughts on the draft, or maybe something that caught your eye.
Yeah, no, I think the most important thing about draft day is that the Ravens signed Lamar Jackson finally. So that was it's a big win for the Ravens Nation. And then we coupled it with Zay Flowers. So that was good. But overall, yeah, one guy went to Tuscarora High School. We beat them 70-0 my year. So they've gotten a lot better since then, obviously. And then Brian Breesy kind of followed the same kind of path. He was an Urbana guy. I was an Urbana guy. Transferred to Damascus. Ended up playing for Damascus.
Wow.
I went to West Point. Went to Clemson. Kind of the same thing. But yeah, no. When
that Breesy kid, by the way, I remember showing up to Clemson. They were one of my schools, and he was a freshman, and I was like just jaw dropped. I thought, this is special. This is a dude now. He's a very good football player. And I know the last 2 years have had the injury plague and probably a little bit of, keeping it safe to make it to Sunday. But when that dude had, nothing to lose, everything to play for as a 18, 19-year-old, wow.
He's and when he made, he's a Damascus High School, football captain his senior year. And so we have like the many of groups that I try to follow and try to impact. Got to talk to him a little bit, just wish him luck in that season and everything like that. So he was part of the teams, he was part of the streak. Damascus went 53-0, set the state record for most consecutive wins. He was a part of that. So I got to talk to him about that. I remember the local high school called me and was like, "Oh, they lost, the streak is broken. How do you feel about it?" I was like, dude, like I'm so old. Like, it sucks. Like, it's upsetting, but like, it's been a while since I've stepped foot in Damascus High School, but great kid. Just feel, the whole story and his family and his sister. It's the man's got a purpose to continue to fulfill and live in his, for his sister. So it's great stuff. But yeah, great draft. I mean, I don't know what the Lions were doing, taking, I do now, but when they took a running back and then we were like, what are they doing? And then they, traded DeAndre Swift to the Eagles, which is now the Eagle Bulldogs, apparently. I don't know who's on that. Who's the GM that's just like a Georgia Bulldog fan? Because Rosen, right? They've got to be the favorite going into this year after that draft, because it is savage. I mean,
yeah. What Howie and his staff did, it's just remarkable. That they absolutely reloaded, and there's still a presence there. That's what's terrifying to me, is like there are there's already a strong core in place, and it just got luxury items basically. Like, yeah,
I think I just saw that they had, if you go by the OTC, right, wherever like projected, there's a lot of analytics there. Obviously, we don't know how it's going to play out, but the Eagles ended up having the best draft by like 15%.
Oh yeah,
like
yeah,
it was ridiculous.
They've been on the kind of front of, I shouldn't say front of the curve, but they've got a wonder kid in there, Alex Hallaby, who is crunching a lot of the numbers, and has just been a real value add there to Howie and the data points that he's collecting. He's really just built a beautiful model of having a traditional scouting staff, which was previously with Joe Douglas and company, to do the traditional evaluation, and kind of Alex and a lot of his analytical breakdown of numbers, married then to Howie's bread and butter, which is the salary cap, to then figure out the projection of how this fits within the cap. He really has established something special there, and they'll certainly be favorites in the NFC East, if not the NFC. That's for sure.
Justin, was there any buddy that you looked at as the possible potential steal of the draft, or maybe a pick that you really liked in the draft?
Golly, steal, one that I liked. Gosh, this is like such a, because I liked the Bryce Young pick. It's a great fit. That's an organizational fit there with Frank Reich and how he approaches the game and the culture that he is bringing to Carolina. But that's such a weak thing to say, because gosh, he's the number one overall pick. Like, obviously they made the right pick because he's the top quarterback. Here's who I give a lot of compliments to is Nick Caserio. Like, guy is getting in Houston. He's getting all kinds of shade heading into it. Oh, he's going to leave. He's not going to be there. He's not D'Amico's guy, and all this stuff is swirling around him. But does he just kind of say, to heck with it? I am doubling, tripling down to do this right, and getting the number 2 quarterback, and then saving D'Amico Ryan's butt to make sure he can walk back into Tuscaloosa and not be exiled, and pick Will Anderson at number 3. I thought that was just marvelous. And I loved Nick saying as well that, like, out with the numbers and the value of pick, like, we had to get our guys, we had to construct our roster, and how cool that must have been for D'Amico to know that the team builder, his partner in crime, and the general manager was there to give him the assets, give him all the tools he needed to go out on Sundays and be successful. So
well, I also what a just the boldness of the move is just incredible. And just I just think that what to make that decision, like, that is a decisive decision where there's no like, all right, what do you guys think about moving up to 3 here? Like, what you know what I mean? Like, that's not happening. It's like,
they came in with a plan. Yeah,
give me 3, all right, and we're taking Will Anderson, and we'll be good there.
And my Cardinals with the assist there to swap with them, right? My Cardinals swapping out, and taking, Paris John, then getting back up to 6 and taking Paris Johnson. His father, I guess, played for the Cardinals, and Kyler Murray wanted them badly. So there you go. The way I looked at the draft for me is, personally, as a Cardinals fan, I see the list in front of me now. I see 2 players that Army played against that got drafted by the Cardinals. I see Clayton Tune of Houston. We remember that 2018 Armed Forces Bowl. He was a freshman in that game. James Nolical, I think, in Army sacked him about 8 times. And now we see in the 2023 draft, he's a 4th-round pick. I think he was a 6-year guy out of Houston, but, he thinks that he can be one of the best quarterbacks in this draft. So hopefully that comes true for the Cardinals and Clayton Tune. And also Dante Stills. He was a defensive lineman from West Virginia, and Army played West Virginia in the Liberty Bowl. And I remember there was talk of possibly him coming out or being a higher draft pick back then, he went in the 6th round of the Cardinals. So I just I always try to circle around the Army football program sometimes, even with the Cardinals and stuff. So
and since you brought it back to the Army football, I mean, there's a lot of upset people, with the Andre Carter not being drafted. And, we kind of, the Army football brotherhood is deep. And, there's a lot of us that were upset about it. I think the biggest thing that, just to kind of bring it full circle is Andre's going to be playing for the Vikings, at least for a little bit. And there's nobody rooting for him more than all the brotherhood and all the fans of Army football. So really hoping that, we get some inside scoops. and like I said earlier, Andre Carter, 6'7", and some change at 260 as an Army football player versus really living the professional football life at Andre Carter, whatever they want to make him. They want to make him, 300. He's got the frame. If they make him 245 off the edge, whatever, they'll he'll be able to just focus on that, and that'll be really good to see.
His example needs to be what our buddy Ali went through. Obviously, he went through the Army, so he even had more obstacles, if you will, to have to come back to. But playing defensive tackle, back to our guy Howie Roseman and the Philadelphia Eagles, playing defensive tackle, and gets brought into Pittsburgh under one of the greatest offensive line coaches ever, in Mike Munchak, and is there in Pittsburgh for a year on the practice squad just to learn, put weight on, get physically prepared. Andre, you're going to have the same exact opportunity in Minnesota. Yeah. And, let it be said, there's an example out there that shows you what's possible, i.e. someone that made multiple Pro Bowls, right? That, I still marvel that he got his MBA from Tepper Business School while he was playing. That dude's a stud.
Yeah,
regardless.
I mean, God took a little extra time,
Well, sure did. He's special. He's special.
I've always said, God just took a little extra time with Ali. That guy is he's special. A freak, man.
Special. Love him, and Andre's got a similar opportunity before him.
100%.
Super excited for the kid, and he'll be just another one to put up on the wall in Kimsey there, and keep bringing the next Andre Carters in there, the next Steve Andersons, the next Josh McNary's, Alejandro Villanueva, you name it, Colin Mooney's, bring all of them in there. Brett Toad, I'm going to be forgetting guys, so then you get self-conscious. Like there's going to be a lot. Andre's going to be on that wall to bring the next ones in. So well done, proud of you, kid, and you got a lot in front of you.
Well said. So he joins Brett Toth, John Radigan, Cole Christensen, Elijah Riley in the NFL. I got everybody there. So great conversation here tonight. Really appreciate it. Justin, you joining, Steve and I. If you want to check out, like I said, our Black Knight Nation website, please check that out. Story on Andre Carter. I'm going to put a story up on this podcast too, because I think it's an important topic, an important conversation that we had tonight about Andre Carter and also the NFL draft. Check out our YouTube channel too. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check out Justin. This is your second time here. So we had you earlier during the pandemic time, and for the first time, appreciate having you for a second time. And hopefully maybe we'll hear Andre Carter talk down the road too. Hopefully we can get him to the phone maybe sooner than later and talk to him about what's next for him. Guys, we really appreciate it. Thanks for following us tonight. And Stephen, Justin, thanks a lot and have a good night.
Thanks. Cheers.